Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. I'm going to give people a minute or so here to join us since it's just a little bit early. The training lasts about an hour and a half. We do record these trainings, so if you can't stay for the whole time, that's fine. Come back later and watch them or finish it at your leisure. That also does allow you to get the link and share it with other staff members who need to be system admins. Feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask any questions about a feature as I go over it. Hopefully I see it in time so I don't have to backtrack too far. And beyond that, I think that's it. So we can go ahead and get started here. So here we have our Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. To get logged in, we need three pieces of information. The first is your username, which is your email address, and that should be in all lowercase letters. We need your password, which should have been emailed to you. That is case sensitive. And then we need the account name, which is typically your organization name or possibly your name if you sign up under yourself. Down here, bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, there's a forgot your info link. So you can always use this to recover your information. We still need your email address, right? But then down here, one of these two. So we need either the account name or the phone number on the account. When you click reset password, this will send you an email. And that email will have a link that will allow you to log into your user account page where you can change your password. If you try to do anything else, it'll log you back out. But then you come back here and enter in that password. You have the option here to also click on Remember Me. Now, I'm logging into a test account that I log into on a regular basis. So I'm being taken here to the dashboard page, which is giving me a snapshot of my current system. If it's your first time logging in, you actually get taken to your user account page and the Dash Wizard will start up. Now, you can always get back to that user account page. If you look at the top center of the page, just to the right, you see my name there. I can click on that. It's going to bring up a big pop-up window. This is my user account information. Right, so the primary thing people change is their password. You can also change things like the date, format, the time, right? If you're going to go 24-hour time or not. Here's your time zone and language options as well. Now, as I mentioned, the wizard will come up, so there'll be some pop-up windows telling you what certain things are. As a system admin, I can also click here on the left and click on the account level settings. Like typically, the technical contact is changed or possibly the time zone and language for the whole site. If you need to change the account name, right, there's not an option to do that here, so you'd need to email our billing team, right, BILLING at virtualpbx.com. That way they can link everything together properly. Additional on the left, we have here add-ons. This is a new feature. This will allow you to add additional features to your Dash account. Currently, the only add-on feature available is the text forward feature, which allows you to allow a phone number to accept inbound text messages and then forward that on to, say, an email address, right? But it's not for two-way communication. But in the future, other features will show up here as options to add to your account. Some of them may increase your bill, some of them won't. That will be somewhere on our website. They'll tell you if that, what plans it's included with. The billing portal here on the left, this link opens up a new tab, takes you to the billing portal. It's going to ask you for your email address and will send a PIN code, assuming that the email address you enter is actually associated as a billing contact. If not, you would need to contact our billing team. But the billing portal allows you to check things like your current invoice or previous invoices, as well as update your credit card. And there's also here the option for any system admin to cancel the account. Now, when you do this, when you follow the on-screen instructions, the account will close by the end of your next billing cycle. Right, when you're done here, there's a little close box up here at the top right. Close that, and now we're here on the dashboard. Again, on that first login, you're going to have pop-ups on this page. You'll also have pop-ups on the users tab and the groups tab. So up at the top, again, your name, click on that at any time, get back to that user account page. To the right, most of you will have a DND toggle for do not disturb. Mine is currently enabled, that's why it's white. Right? If I click on it, the page will update and it will go to mostly black. Right? Do not disturb just means I'm not accepting calls. Right? So calls like someone, if I have a direct phone number, for instance, on my user, right? Calls to that number go directly to voicemail. All right. Next up, we have a little phone icon here. This opens up a new tab. It takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It does have a login page, which just uses your dash login. And this will allow you to use Chrome or Firefox as a phone. Now, you have to have a web phone device on your user in order for this to work, right? So if you just signed up with us, your admin user already has a web phone created and assigned to you, so it would work. But any user you add on after yourself, right, you would have to make sure you add that web phone device for this to work for them. Little chat bubble here icon. This will open up a new tab, take you to virtualtext.app. It has its own login information, but this is one of the ways you can make use of texting on your system. Again, it's a feature that has to be enabled on your user. So in order for you to have a login, there's also a downloadable app you can use on your cell phone. Little question mark icon here. This will open up a chat window at the bottom right of your browser, so you can speak to our support team, right? So they can help you with a particular feature or any questions you may have. The three horizontal line icon here, the menu icon, this gets you to other dash features. The majority of our time here will be on the dashboard, but we'll touch on these other subjects, although in some cases I'll be referring to some show notes for a better view of the particular feature. And the little arrow icon here to the right, that's the logout icon. Now, if we go over to the far left, under where it says VirtualPBX, right, we're on the dashboard. These other tabs are other features we'll be covering to some extent. Most of them are included features, but a couple are not. So I'll make sure to highlight those. Here in the center, I have total users. I have 5 users on this account. Right? So these are 5 people who make and receive calls. Most of our plans are based on a per user basis, right? So the more users you have, the higher your bill will be. Then we have my total devices. I currently have 12. And the first one here is Softphone. Softphone is just a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. So this group of soft phones, that would include the VirtualPBX softphone app, as well as any third-party softphone apps you might be using. Right. Then we have web phone, right? That Chrome or Firefox, so any that you've added on to a particular users. And we have the cell phone, right? So you can add cell phone or landline numbers as devices on your Dash account, right? So we can send calls to those phone numbers. The one thing to keep in mind is when you pick up a call that goes to a cell phone number, you're not going to be able to transfer that caller to a colleague, right? It's just, that's an endpoint. And then here I have a SIP phone, right? This is a piece of hardware, a physical VoIP phone. Generally speaking, they connect via an Ethernet cable to get to your router so they can get on the internet. But beyond that, they act like a phone, right? You pick it up, you dial it, and go from there. Unregistered devices, I have one. That means I've turned one of my devices off on the devices tab versus removing it completely for whatever reasons. Next up, I have total phone numbers, 13. Your plan includes some number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. Right? Normally, it's a main number and then like a local number per user. Although double check the pricing page if you just signed up to us to verify. So more than likely, I'm paying an overage on a per number basis here, just because I have 13 numbers. And then here I have a breakdown. So first is assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number, I'm using it, right? Someone can dial one of these numbers and expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail or join a conference or be sending a fax to it, right? Spare number, count towards my allotment of phone numbers. I'm just not currently using it. Whether that's because I'm about to expand into a new market, right? So new phone number, new area code and phone number. So I got the number ahead of time so I can make my marketing materials. Or it's like I take a number out of service because I had a number for a special promotion, right? The promotion ends, I take the number and put it in spare, so I'm not getting calls about something that's no longer running. The next breakdown I have here is USDID and US toll free. So US toll free is actually a US Canada toll free, right? 800 number, all the way down to 888, 833, and down to 833. USDID just means a US local phone number. So if you have a number in, say, Los Angeles, California, USDID, just as if you have one in Miami, Florida. You can have international phone numbers on your account. If you'd like to do so, you want to email our porting team, and that's porting at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a phone number in. They will let you know if that's possible and if there are any additional requirements. Right? Those requirements come from the country in question. All right, next up, I have conference bridges, 2, which means I've enabled the conference feature on 2 of my users. Right, so these people host or moderate a conference. Now over towards the top right, I have my main number box, which has 3 phone numbers in here, 512, a 916, and a toll-free number. So these 3 phone numbers are going to the same area of my account, right? The same location. They're going to have the same main greeting play. Obviously you have multiple main numbers. The conference number, you can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. They're going to the same set of conference rooms. This is the phone number everyone dials to join the conference, right? That includes your staff, clients, vendors, and they'll be prompted to enter the conference room number and the PIN number. Next is the fax box number. You can have one main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. This also allows you to edit your main fax box to allow for outbound faxing if you wish to make use of that. Then we have the company directory. There's actually 2 links here. One is a CSV file and the other says for soft phone. So the CSV file is just that. It's just a spreadsheet file. It's going to have your staff members' names, their email addresses, their extension numbers, and their devices. The soft phone version is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone app. So if you're using our app on your Mac or Windows PC, you can download this file and then upload it to your VirtualPBX soft phone on your computer. This will allow you to see the status of the other VirtualPBX soft phones on your account. Right, so I could see if my colleague Mike is on a call on his soft phone, so I know not to try to call him. Right, likewise, he could see if I'm not on mine, and he can call me if we need to talk about a particular, feature or customer or what have you. Now, if you have people with multiple different devices, right? So like my colleague Mike is actually on a call on his Yealink phone. From my soft phone, I'm not gonna be able to tell. So that's the limitation there. The Virtual PBX store, this will open up a new tab and take you to store.virtualpbx.com. And this is where you can order things like a phone. And then the account realm, every account has its own account realm. It's primarily used in a couple ways. The first, it's one of the 3 pieces of information you need to program or provision a third-party soft phone. Whether you're using an actual piece of software or you're using it to program a physical phone, it's one of those 3 pieces of information you'll need. The other thing it's used for is for sending out a fax. Once you have your fax box set up to allow for outbound faxing, then it's just you create an email to send a fax, right? In the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, put the little @ symbol, and then you put in your account realm, and then you attach a PDF or TIFF file. So the system looks at the to field, it looks at the from field, and the attachment, right? It ignores the subject line, it ignores the body of the email. It's only going to send one attachment. So make sure it's a PDF or TIFF. All right, we're going to jump up here to the top here. This is the company caller ID. So this pull down up here, which unfortunately my software won't allow me to show, lets you select any of your main numbers, right? You select one of them, that becomes your default number. So like your VoIP phones would use this by default as their outbound caller ID. Next, you have the company caller ID name or CNAME. This is an optional feature, but in this box here to the right, you can enter up to 15 characters. The industry counts spaces as part of that 15. Then you have the company emergency information or E911. The system wants a North American address here. So for our Canadian customers, where it says zip code, that is where you would put your postal code. And then where it says state, that is where you would put your 2-character province abbreviation. And then you would click on Save Changes. Now, for the company caller ID name, after you click on Save Changes, this information gets transmitted to the other carriers who support this feature. It takes them about 3 business days to get their servers updated. Usually it's a little faster than that, but 3 days is the standard. Something that keeps in mind about the CNAME feature, right? We can only control what we send out, right? So when you have this inputted here, that's what we send out when you make a call. However, not every carrier supports the CNAME feature, and calls go through multiple carriers to reach their destination. So it's possible that a call could go through a carrier that doesn't support it, which means it wouldn't reach that final carrier. The final carrier, right, the destination carrier that you're calling, they have final say about what shows up on the phones on their network. Ideally, right, they see the name and number that we're sending and they pass them both through. Everybody's happy. The most common thing that we run into, though, is the receiving carrier receives the name and the phone number, and they only send the number through. They don't send the name. This is typically what the cell phone providers do. Right? Many cell phone providers have a feature that their customers can pay to add on so they can have that CNAME feature show up on calls that go to their cell phones. My carrier wants me to pay $10 a month for it, and I'm not willing to. There is one third alternative, is that receiving carrier, right, sees the name and the number, and they ignore the name we send, right? They get the number, they look up their own database, and if they find information there, they put that other information with the number and send it through. Now, there's other databases that we can try to update, but we can't guarantee that we can get to every database that the receiving carriers make use of. The hold music button here, this allows you to upload your own hold music on your Dash account. Now, hold music on Dash is after a call has come into your system, right? One of your staff members has picked up the phone call, right? They start talking and then they press hold on their VoIP phone. That's when this hold music file will play. You can click upload to upload your own media files. The system will play back .wav and .mp3 files up to 1 megabyte. To have a longer duration hold file, I would recommend making sure you upload a file that's in mono, not in stereo, as that will give you a longer duration file. But you would click browse to find the file on your computer, click the up arrow icon, and then click on Save Changes. And this will be the default hold music for all of your staff. You don't have to do anything else. All right, hours is actually part of a main number. For a new account, I recommend making sure you have your users and your groups set up first before you get into your main number, right? You want to have destinations on your system first before you set up the whole main number. So over here on the left, I'm going to click here on the little person with the desk icon for users. And this shows my users on the account. The people with the blue suit icon, these are your system admins, right? So they can make all the changes we are talking about here. Dante, who's got this little gray person icon, he's a standard user. He has very limited access, right? So when Dante logs in to the website, he can't get to all of this that we're talking about. He can get to his user portal, which allows him to like check his voicemail, and he can set up call forwarding on his own there. But he's not going to be able to add additional users or even adjust or add devices to his user. Up at the top is where you would add a new user, and you basically fill out the form, right? So first name, last name, the system wants some sort of text. The email address used for login, right, should be specific to each user, right? Unique to each user. You can't reuse an email address for multiple staff. The email address used for login, that's how the system communicates with the staff member, right? In terms of like password resets or voicemail notifications, by default will go to the email address used for login. Here you create a password for the user, and then here you create an extension number. The system will start you off with extension 1000 for a new account, but for any extension, you can change that to whatever you want it to be. Then by default, the system creates a voicemail box for the user. That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So if I finished adding this user and then I add a VoIP phone to them, I get that VoIP phone registered. That staff member can pick up their VoIP phone, dial *98, and then click send on their phone. That's going to log them directly into this voicemail box I just created for their user. The system will then walk them through creating a PIN number for their voicemail box, as well as creating a voicemail greeting. And they can also get into personal settings to like record their name, which is what the system uses to populate the directory. And speaking of, here's your option to include a user in the directory. You can change this later after the user is created. This third option here is send emails to an alternate address. So if you want the system to send like the password reset or voicemail notifications to an email other than the one that you use for login, right? So a different email altogether, click on the box here and enter that different email address in the box provided. And then the last option here, send credentials to the user. I generally recommend putting a check mark here. So that way, when you click create user, this person gets an email welcoming them to the Dash account, and it provides them with their Dash login information. The create user and add another is if you need to add multiple people. Once a user is created, you can click on their name and you can change their name if you need to, right? Someone changes their name. Here's your option to change their credentials, right? So you can change their email address or their password. You just have to do that twice. And then you also have the option here to have the system send them the password reset email, right? So they can change the password on their own. Right, change the PIN number for their voicemail box. When you click here, just enter 4 digits, click Save Changes. So here's the option to send to an alternate address, and then here's the option to include or not include in the user directory. Now over here, this pull down little by the person here, this allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. Please, if you're the only user on the account, don't change yourself to a user. You want to make sure you have at least one admin. Little clock icon here, this allows you to change the time zone for this user. Right, so this would make sure like their voicemail timestamps are correct. The little flag icon here, this allows you to change the display language for this user. You can change it to English, French, German, or Russian. The ringing timeout by default is 20 seconds. That's plenty of time for calls to go to a VoIP phone or a landline. If you have a user who's only using a cell phone, you would want to increase this to 30 seconds, possibly longer. The extension box, users can have multiple extensions if you want them to. Just click on Add Extension and enter the new extension number and then Save Changes. Excuse me. Users can have their own phone numbers. When you add a phone number to a user or to a group, for example, those phone numbers are available 24/7. Right? They don't have hours of operation. Something to be aware of. Now, anywhere you can add a number, you have the option to either add from spare or buy new. So adding from spare is how you would reuse a number, right? So for instance, if from Dante, I don't want him to have this 424 phone number, right? I can click unassign and then save changes. So now he doesn't have a phone number. But if I go from add from spare, all right, I have a couple 424 phone numbers here, so I can add them back if I want to, right? So I can reuse that number. Right? I would just click on the box, click add selected, and then save changes. Now, by numbers, you have the option for local and toll free. I'm going to start with toll free. Choose a toll free prefix you want to work with, and then click on search. And the system will give you a list of phone numbers that are available. You can scroll down to keep showing more, and then click add to add a number to your cart. Now, once you click add, you haven't done anything. You haven't reserved the number or anything like that. Right? It's just putting it there so that way you know you selected it as a potential number. Once you're done, you want to click on by numbers. Once you click on by numbers, that's when you're actually reserving that number and adding it to your system. Right? Anytime before that, it's possible someone else could complete the process and get the number that you were looking at, because that list is dynamic. You're competing with other people in real time. And at this point, I would click on Save Changes to add that number here. But instead, I'm going to click on By Numbers again, and I'm going to select Local. For local, you need to know the area code that you want to work with. Right? So 310. For any area code, and this includes the toll-free prefixes, you can get this message. This is just saying that there's no readily available phone numbers in this area code. You're going to want to go to your favorite search engine and do a search for, in like this case, area code 310 overlay, right? And what you're looking for are other area codes that cover the same geographic spot. And that would tell me that for 310, the overlay is 424, which has plenty of numbers, right? So I could click add, right? And I can add multiple if I want to, right? And then I click by numbers. And now you see them all here. We also have this little gear icon next to each of the numbers. You can update the caller ID, right? So you can make outbound CNAM information for every available number. And you can turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM, right? So that way the information comes through to your staff members on their phones. You have the E911, so each phone number can have its own E911 address associated with it. The reason for that is then you can assign a particular phone number to particular VoIP phones for the purposes of 911 only, right? So that way, when someone picks up that VoIP phone, dials 911, their proper address gets sent to emergency services versus your company headquarters. And then we have the prepend. This is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to enter text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff member's VoIP phone. So like if I type in, whoops. So I'll go here and I type in the word direct, right? Then whenever someone dials this 424 number on my user here, on my VoIP phone, right, it will show the word direct and then the phone number of the person who's calling in. So that way I know, oh, they called me directly versus from my main number. All right. The device box, you can add from spare, which is where you would reuse a device or you would add a new one. First up is SIP phone, right? So these are our VoIP phone, physical hardware, right? Some of them have a lot of models to work with, right? Some have like a dozen. So find the make and model of the phone you want to work with, give it a name, and then enter the MAC address, right? The MAC address is unique to each device. It's going to be a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in, you can also check the status settings. Should show up there. And then you would click on Create Device, right? And then Save Changes. Then you want to come back here, click on the device name, go to Advanced and go to Miscellaneous. And where it says Allow Reprovision, you want to click Unlock here with a little green notification. You click Save Changes. You click Save Changes again. So now you've told the system that this phone is about to be provisioned. At this point, you would want to log into the phone's web user interface and basically get to the auto provisioning tab, put in the URL, basically telling this phone, hey, go to this place and get your config file. For the specifics of that, you want to look at the auto provisioning document. It's a link in my show notes. It's also under the support pages, which you can use search there. Each of these manufacturers has screenshots and the proper syntax for that web page. And in some cases, there's some additional settings to check as well. All right, so next up, cell phone and landline is the same process. Right, so you would give the device a name, and then here in the number field, you put the +1 area code number, right? No spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Basically, any place you can add a number is always a +1 area code number, right? No spaces, dashes, or parentheses. You would click on Create Device, and then Save Changes. I'm going to click on this one here. All right, so here you see I have it set up. I go to the Advanced Options. Actually, that one should be checked. All right, so this setup right here, that's the default setup for a new landline or cell phone. So call comes into the system and reaches my cell phone, right? So my cell phone rings. I pick up. The first thing I hear is, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When I press 1, I'm telling the system, yes, I'm there, and yes to connect the call, right? So then the call gets connected. I can speak to the other person. That's great if there's an actual person there to press 1, right? But if you've contracted out with an automated answering service, right, they typically give you a phone number, say, hey, just send calls here. We'll handle the calls from that point on. Well, an automated answering service, right, doesn't know to press 1, doesn't have fingers. So in that instance, you would add the phone as a device on your account. But here, where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, you put a check mark here and click on Save Changes. So now, when we send a call to this phone number, when we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call, right? There's no message about this is a forwarded call. There's nothing about having to press 1. It's just as we hear pickup tone, connect. If this is your actual cell phone and you have this checked, that's fine. That's completely your option. However, what can happen is, right, we send the call to your cell phone voicemail picks up. Still a pickup tone. So that inbound caller ends up on your personal cell phone's voicemail versus the dash system voicemail. Right? Some people really want that. Some people really don't. Oops. All right. The other thing is keep original caller ID. So by default, customer Mary calls into the system, right? Goes out to my cell phone. On my cell phone, I see customer Mary's phone number. Now, I'm old and crotchety, so if I don't recognize the phone number, I typically don't answer it, right? I let it go to voicemail. So that means I could lose potential business. I can, however, uncheck this, right? Then click on Save Changes and Save Changes again. So then when customer Mary calls me, instead of seeing her phone number show up on my cell phone, if we go up here, this phone number I selected up here shows up on my cell phone. So hopefully I would recognize my main company phone number and thus be willing to answer that call. All right, next up, I'm gonna add a soft phone. So whenever you add a soft phone or web phone to the account, you're gonna get this warning message. Please be sure to make sure you read it at least once, if not a couple of times. We'll close, and then we have a big pop-up here. Now, the system will default to add a third-party soft phone, meaning you're using somebody else's soft phone application instead of ours. That's fine. If you want to do that, Then up here, you give it a name. You would copy the SIP username, click on the SIP password box to see it, and then you would copy and paste that into your new application, and then the realm, right? You would use that. Those are the three pieces of information you would need to program that third-party software. If, however, you want to use the virtual PBX soft phone, then what you want to do is down here below where it says View Configuration Guide, right? There's a toggle. It says Use Third-Party Application, but you can click it. So now it says Use Virtual PBX Application. You still need to give it a name, right? So like I can give it like test, right? Then click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. Now, when I click on Save Changes, Dante here is getting an email saying your virtual PBX soft phone is ready. It's going to have the login information for his soft phone as well as download links. Now, one thing to know is that each email address can only be associated with one virtual PBX soft phone. So something to bear in mind. Also, if you ever wish to delete a device, you just click on the devices box, click on the name, and here's your option to delete. For the virtual PBX soft phone, this is also where you could reset the password. All right. And then lastly, I want to just cover the web phone. Again, you get this warning message. You just need to give it a name, click on Create Device, and Save Changes. The web phone uses the Dash user's login information, right? So you don't need to do anything else after then click on Save or Create Device and Save Changes. Now, some of you may have noticed on the left there's a Devices tab. You could add soft phones and web phones there. The problem with that is on that Devices tab, you only can add a third-party soft phone. And if you add a web phone, it won't work until you assign it to a user, right? Because it needs that user's login information. All right, then we've got dash feature or user features. So first up, we have caller ID, uh, or yeah, caller ID number, excuse me. This allows you to have a user have their own caller ID, right? So they have to have a phone number assigned to them. And what you're doing when you enable it is you're saying, hey, when they make an outbound call from their VoIP phone, make it the phone number that's on the user, not the main company number, right? So like your sales staff may want to have this so that way when they make calls out and leave a message, right, the people will call them back directly versus going through the system and getting to one of the other salespeople. Voicemail box will automatically be enabled when you add it for user. This is the default settings. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot hold any more. By default, you have 3 ways to listen to messages, but only 2 ways to manage. The first way to listen is because of this one here, right? We attach messages to email. So when someone leaves a message, you get an email, right? Gives the date, the time, phone numbers involved, the voicemail box number, then an MP3 attachment, right? Which allows you to listen to it. But if you want to manage your voicemail box, there's 2 ways. You could dial into your system, right? So like from a VoIP phone, that's *98, right? You can listen over the phone, and there's a way to delete messages over the phone as well. Or you can log into the user portal, right? So log into the website, and for an admin, right, under the menu icon, there's a user portal link, right? For your standard users, they just get sent to the user portal, and the user portal defaults you to your voicemail tab, right? So you can listen to the message, you can download it, and you can change its status there. Now, if you don't want a voicemail box to ever become full, then you also have this option here where you can delete the message after the notification is sent out, right? So if I check it here, right, then save changes. So now whenever I get left a voicemail, right, the system still sends me the email. And once it does that, it removes the voicemail message from the system, which means I can only ever check my voicemail via email, right? I can't call in later or review it via the portal. So obviously if I have a problem with my email, I could be losing messages. Follow me calling. This is for users with multiple devices, and this allows you as an admin to determine how those devices ring for them. So up here, you would click to enable. And then here on the right, you have to decide which devices you're going to make use of. So uncheck the devices you want to use. You got a little green bar here. You can click and drag to give them a ring time. Now up here at the top, right, these are durations. This system will default to 120 seconds. You can change that down to 60, for instance. And then I can click this distribute button, right? So now my calls are being balanced by offering to my soft phone first and then to my web phone, right? So I can pick it up here. If not, it will follow me to this other device and I can pick up there. I can click and drag these to change the order and then click distribute again. So now it's going to my web phone first and then my soft phone. Now, if I leave this disabled, right, I have 3 devices that you can see here. By default, if I don't have the follow me enabled, all 3 devices ring at the same time whenever a call comes in, assuming they're registered. Another thing to keep in mind about the follow me settings is if you add this user to a group, which we'll be getting to shortly, calls from the group ignore the follow me setting, right? So if I had the follow me set up on this user, call comes in the group, all of my devices would ring. The fax box feature, you can have users have their own fax box. Just click enable. And then you have the option here to buy a new number, use a spare number, or add a new extension. I recommend making use of a phone number as this gives the person the most versatility, meaning they can send and receive faxes. If you assign a new extension number, they can only ever receive a fax because the system will use that extension number as their outbound caller ID, and that will fail because it's not long enough. Additionally, you potentially limit who can send them fax, right? Some electronic fax services may not allow you to send to an extension number, right? They just say, hey, enter a number and send. So those are the primary reasons why I say just use a phone number. That way this person can send and receive. Conference bridge. Up here is where you enable this person to host or moderate a conference. And then here is where you would need to create a PIN number for them. Your user can change this PIN number under their user portal. The enable video conferencing, this would be for in-house video conferencing, right? Anyone from outside the system would not be able to make use of video. Call forwarding, you have off, on, or failover mode. Your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own. They can either do that directly from their VoIP phone using a feature code, or they can do so on their user portal. Failover mode is something you would have to set up for them, and this would be for your VoIP phone users. Basically, what failover mode is, if their VoIP phone goes offline for whatever reasons, and a call comes into them, you can have the system automatically forward the call to a different phone number. Right? So you would go here, you would choose a mobile or desk phone, and then here you would put the +1 area code and number. Now, if a user already has a cell phone as a device on their user, right, and that's what they would forward to anyway, you don't need to do that, right? Because like in this case, since I have 3 devices and one of them is a cell phone, I don't need to make use of call forwarding because I'm already going to forward to the cell phone anyway. Customized call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this, right? And this allows you to record calls on your system. Inbound internal, right? That's a coworker call, right? So Dante calls me. Right? Inbound external, customer Mary calls me. Outbound internal, I called Dante. Right? And then outbound external, I called customer Mary. So we often see these 2, right? The external ones enabled, or all 4. And then you would click on Save Changes. Your account includes some amount of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. Please check the pricing page to see what your plan covers. If you're going to record every call and you have heavy call volume, we would generally recommend making use of AWS, right? So you would want to have an AWS account and then talk to our account services team about enabling AWS integration on your account. That would allow you to link your Dash account to AWS and thus store your call recordings there. This is something, for instance, a lot of insurance agents would make use of, so that way they can keep their call recordings for long term. Right, music on hold. You can choose to have users have their own on hold music if you want them to. Right, so you would click enable. You would upload a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 MB, and then click the up arrow icon, and then save changes. Right. So for instance, if you want your salespeople to have hold music that talks about current promotions or specials that are on, right, versus like your technical support staff, probably you don't want them to have that, but something about going to your website to look at your FAQs there. Do not disturb. This allows you to, as an admin, to put a user on do not disturb, i.e. someone had to leave the office suddenly. You're like, hey, just not have them get calls right now. And then hot desking is a VoIP phone feature designed for a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling. Up here, you would click to enable, and then you would enter their hot desk ID. So if you make use of 4-digit extensions, I just say make it their extension number. You can also have the option to require a PIN number. So like I come into the office on a Tuesday, I sit down at desk number 3. I pick up the VoIP phone there, right, the handset, I hit *11 and then click send on the phone. The system will then ask me for my hot desk ID. I enter that. It will then tell me that calls will not be sent to this device. Right, so the rest of my workday, anyone who's trying to reach my extension number or call my number directly rings on the phone I'm sitting at. Right, end of my day, I pick up the handset, I hit *12 and click send, which turns off hot desking. Right, next time I come into the office, people are already sitting at desk number 3, and I just mosey on down to desk number 11. Pick up the phone, *11, enter my hot desk ID, and now I'm getting calls there. All right, so then let's go to groups. Groups are ring groups or hunt groups. I usually explain it as departments, right? Group of people answering calls about a similar topic. Up here at the top, you click on add group. You need to give it a name and you need to give it an extension number, right? And then you would click and drag your staff members to be in the group. And then you would click on create group. Once a group is created, you can always click on its name, right? So you can change the name at any time. Here you've got group call attempts. There's little arrows at the far right, so you increase or decrease it. And this is how many times the system will offer the inbound call to your staff members, right? So in this case, I'm offering it to them twice. Here's your option to delete a group. Otherwise, click on Save Changes for any changes. To the right, we have the members box, right? So I have 3 people in this group, and this is how I'm offering calls to them, right? This is referred to as blast ringing or ring all, meaning call comes in, it rings all 3 of my staff members at the same time for the same amount of time, right? So whoever picks up first gets the call. Now, one little caveat here in this kind of setup, say Taylor and Dante answer the call at the same time, right? They both pick up. Well, only one of them gets the call. So say Dante gets it, so Taylor's sitting there going, hello, hello, right? There's no one there. He hears dead air. Now, in an office environment, right, Taylor could hear Dante have answered the call and is helping somebody and goes, oh, okay, someone got it, right? But in a remote working situation, he may not know unless you have like Slack or some other kind of team communication device or service, so that way he knows that someone else got the call. Right? As a system admin, you can also check in the call logs to see who got the call. Right? You're looking for the and the call logs. There's like inbound call can have multiple legs to a group, and so everyone who didn't get the call gets lose race, and then the person who answered the call gets normal clearing once the call is completed. Now, up here at the top, these are timestamps. Right? Default is 120 seconds. I can change this down to 60 if I wanted to. Right? I can click distribute. So now calls will always ring in this order, right? So David, Taylor, then Dante. Now, in a group, right, the system doesn't pay attention to if the user is already on a call, right? So call comes in, David answers. He's helping the customer. Second call comes in while David's still on that first call. David is still offered the call for 20 seconds here, right? So he might hear a call waiting. After that 20 seconds, then it goes to Taylor, right? So then David and Taylor on call. Third call comes in. That third caller is going to have to wait 40 seconds before Dante's even offered the call, right? So now you can click and drag these so you can shorten that ring time, right, or that hold time for that person. As you probably noticed, you can click and drag these to change the order and click distribute. All right, and down here, you can add additional users to a group. All right, so then I can distribute it this way. So then again, I shorten the ring time in that regard. Or I can remove people. And then save changes for any changes you want to make. Now, if you don't like that kind of setup where the call is always offered to people, whether they're on a call or not, that's when you would want to look at the call center or the ACD queues. You'd want to talk to our account service team about that. The extension box, you can add additional extension numbers to each group if you want to. Right? Groups can have their own phone numbers, right? So a direct phone number that goes directly into the group, right? So like a support number, hey, just call this number, it rings our support team. Now, phone number, just like under a user, this has no hours of operation, so it's a 24-hour number. Group features, first up is ring back. So when a call comes into the group, right, rings your staff members' phones, their phones ring, that ringing sound is piped back to the inbound caller, right, ring back. So you can click, but if you don't want that, you can click to enable here, and you can upload your own media file, right, .wav, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte. The one thing to keep in mind is the system will not loop the file for you. So you want to make sure that the duration of the file matches or exceeds the total ring time in your group. Right, the default being 2 minutes. You want to make sure your file is at least 2 minutes long. Next action, if no one picks up, what do you want the system to do? Right, you would click to enable, and this pull down is for anything that you've already created on the system, right? In terms of you can send it to another group, you can send it to a particular user or a particular device. If you have call center queues, you can send it to a call center queue, or even a voicemail box, which is the most common. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding. Right? Again, if they have cell phones as their part of the device mix, not necessary. But if you're only using VoIP phones, it's something you would want to do. Caller ID prepend, a VoIP phone feature where you can add either text or numbers that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones, right, to identify what kind of calls they're getting. I usually prefer text, but that's just how my brain works. All right, so once you have users and groups, then I would say it's okay to go into your main number. So main company numbers, these are all your main numbers. You can add from spare or buy new ones to add more main numbers. You got the little gear icon here, so you can update the E911, prepend, etc. Then you have office hours, 24-hour open hours, right? That means you're open 24/7. Otherwise, you can choose custom office hours. When you do so, put a check mark for each day of the week that you're open, and then set your open hours in 24-hour or military time. So you see here, I'm open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You also have the option down here to say that you're closed for lunch at the same time every day that you're open. Right? Put a check mark, put your lunch hours in that 24-hour or military time, and then click on Save Changes. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here, and then over on the right, click on Add Holiday. You have the options for single day, date range, or advanced. Single day, like I have here, you give it a name, you give it the month and the date, and then Save Changes. Date range, again, you give it a name, choose a start month and date, right? And then an end month and date, Save Changes. And then advanced is like I have here for Memorial Day, so I gave it a name, obviously. I choose the month, and the second pull down, I have 1st through 5th, as well as last, and then day of the week, and then Save Changes. If I want to get rid of a holiday, I click on the little trash icon here on the far right. Don't know if you can actually see that. And then you would click on Save Changes. Then we have incoming call handling. So for my main numbers, right, those three numbers at the top, how do I want my system to handle calls during my open hours, my after hours, or my holidays, right? If I had chosen to be closed for lunch, I'd have a lunch hours tab here as well, in between open hours and after hours. So this first option, calls are coming in, they're going to my virtual receptionist. This is a link, which I can click on. So the main menu here on the left, these are menu options, right? People can press digits on their phone to navigate through my phone system. I would click on add route here, give me a new row. And then from the first pull down, right? I have from 0 through 9, the star key and the default action. And then the second pull down are things on my account, right? Users, groups, queues, devices, etc. Right? So you want to have these created first. That way you have some place to put them, right? Your menu options to go to. Over here on the right, you have the greetings options. First up is text to speech. So in this box here, right, you can type in a greeting. It counts up to 250 characters, not words, although it does not count spaces. And it plays it back in a computerized or robotic voice. Right? There's no charge for this type of greeting. Just bear in mind, you can't name the file, right? After you create it, the system names it for you. Calls it, in this case, main open hours menu TTS. Right? If this was after hours, be my main after hours menu TTS. So it's possible, like I could come here, create this, right? Test it. Oh wait, I forgot a menu option, and then I type in additional text into this greeting. So then I would have two files called main open hours menu TTS. In that instance, so my recommendation is whenever you make use of text to speech, after you create it, on the left-hand side, you want to click on the greetings tab and edit the file name. So it's something that's easily recognizable. You can upload your own file, right? Click on choose file, .wave, .mp3 up to 1 megabyte, right? Then click update, and then save and save changes. You can choose from an existing recording. So this pull down will show you all of your media files, right? Hold music files, main greetings, voicemail greetings, right? So that's why you want to use names that are easily recognizable. You can record a greeting over the phone. Now, when the system says pick up a phone registered to the account, that means a VoIP phone. It's a security feature, basically, because the system knows when a phone is registered that it's part of the system, so it's safe for it to make a change to the account. If you don't want to do that, or more precisely, you wish to use your own cell phone or landline, or you have that friend who's got that great phone voice, then underneath where it says settings here, where it says allow outside recording, you want to turn that on. So now you can call in from any phone number and change your greeting over the phone. Right, you're still going to need this PIN number, which is specific to this time of day on this account. Right? So if I called in on Saturday, when I'm typically closed, this PIN number would not work. Now, also something to keep in mind is when you record over the phone, you're recording over the existing recording that's already there. Right? So the file name will say, like, so main open hours menu TTS is playing. You call in, enter the PIN number, and you record a new greeting with your voice. Well, the file name will still be main open hours menu TTS, but the content you just completely overwrote. Something to be aware of since we're coming with holidays and sometimes people lose track of time. So you don't want to lose your normal main greeting that you use for most of the year, right? So I usually recommend people go to the greetings tab and download the file of their normal main greeting so they have it copied locally, and that way they can just re-add it there, so that way they can go back to it at any time. Professional recording services, when you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings, where you can order a professionally done reading. They have like 100 actors to choose from. They bill you directly and send you via email, so then you would just come up here to upload your own file. Under settings, allow number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times you're allowing the inbound caller to make a mistake. So In this case, I have it here at 1, which means my inbound caller can make one mistake, which means they get 2 total attempts to navigate through my phone system before either the default action takes place or the system hangs up. Right, so caller calls in and presses 7, and that's not a valid option, right? The system then plays the greeting again. They press 7 a second time, and they would go to my default action, which in this case is going to my PBX directory. If I click the X here to remove that, on that second attempt, the system would say, we don't recognize your entry, goodbye. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system listens for an additional button press, right? So that inbound caller presses 7, the system waits for 2 seconds to see if they enter an additional digit, i.e. they're trying to enter a multi-digit extension number to transfer to. All right, covered allow outside recording. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on, and this just means if the inbound caller enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call to that extension number. If I turn this off, that means my inbound caller can only press the menu options, right? So 0 through 3 in this case. And then suppress the playing of invalid entry. So if I don't want that message to play about we did not recognize your entry, I would turn this on. And let's say the reason I would probably do that is because I have a default action going to like one of my users or a group or a voicemail, right? Basically, they kept entering the wrong answer or wrong invalid option. The system will eventually transfer the call. But instead of telling them that's what we're doing, we're just doing it. Right? Any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you need to click Save down here. You'll be taken back to incoming call handling, and then you want to click Save Changes here. So you're clicking Save twice. All right, for my after hours, I'm making use of the second options, which is referred to as the live operator answer option, because on this pull down, you can select anything on the account. Right? So you can send calls to a user, a group, a device, etc. Basically, you're giving somebody a chance to answer the call first. And if they're not able to pick up, then I'm sending it to my virtual receptionist. Now, this is my after hours, so I have different menu options. I have different greetings, but beyond that, it's the same idea that we were just looking at. This third option for my holidays, I chose here to send callers straight to voicemail. Now, this pull down, I can select it to go to a user or a group or a media file, right? A call queue, etc. Right? So I can offer it to somebody first, and if they don't pick up, then I can select it to the voicemail box I want. Main conference number, you get multiple conference room numbers, right? So you can add from spare or buy new. You also have the option here for a custom text-to-speech greeting, so you can type it in here. But even if you leave this disabled, the system says welcome to the conference and then prompts the caller to enter the conference room number and the PIN number. The main fax box number, you can only have the one main fax box number, but once you do, you can edit the fax box. The inbound notification email, right, designed to put an email address, and basically this email address gets an email every time a fax comes through, right? So in this case, Rose, fax comes in, she gets an email, says you have a new fax. In the body of the email, there's the date, the time, phone numbers involved, and then there'll be a PDF attachment. Now, if someone dials your fax number, hears the fax tone and then hangs up, right? This person still gets an email saying there was a failed inbound fax attempt. It will have that information, the date, the time, and phone numbers involved. Sometimes in the caller ID of the inbound caller, it will say wireless number. That's a dead giveaway to say that was a wrong number, right? So you don't have to worry about it. But beyond that, you'd want to check with the other person who's faxing to you to say, hey, it didn't get through. The email permissions in the box here to the right, this is designed to put your company's email domain. So this means that anyone at a virtualpbx.com email address can send a fax out from this account, even if they're not a user on the account, right? They just need that proper format, that +1 area code and number, the @ symbol, and the account realm. And then just attach a PDF or a TIFF. All right, auto attendance. This is a planned specific feature, so available on some plans and not others. This allows you to create secondary attendants. Uh, so for instance, if you have multiple businesses, right, so each has their own phone numbers and their own main greetings, but you have the same staff people answering calls among these staff of these two businesses or three or whatever, then you can make use of an auto attendant for those secondary businesses. The other reason that, or the other use case we have is for people making use of submenuing, right? One for English, two for Spanish. You would then create an English and Spanish auto attendant. So that way they would have a greeting in the appropriate language and then menu options going to the people who speak the appropriate language. Up here at the top, you would click on Add Attendant. You need to give it a name, and then you need to give it an extension number. Click on Create Attendant. When you first click on, or first create an attendant, when you click on the name here, it defaults to say unavailable in main menu, and that means it's a standalone auto attendant, right? So designed to be its own company. Right, if I click on it here, now it says available in main menu. So now it's a menu option, right? So I can make it an option off of my virtual receptionist. I can make it a next action option for a group, for instance. Phone numbers, auto attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? So you can add from spare or buy new. Got the little gear icon here as well. Extension box, you can have multiple extension numbers for an auto attendant, right? And that's what your staff would use to transfer a call, right? So like if someone called into the system and started speaking Spanish to me, I would only understand like 1 out of 20 words. So I would transfer them to the Spanish auto attendant so that way they can get to a Spanish speaking staff member that is appropriate for their needs. Then you have a little wrench icon here under settings. So you have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? These times and dates match what we set up under main number. And then you click on the virtual receptionist. So here is where I would set up my menu options and my greeting for this secondary business. All right, and then save and save changes. The device tab shows your devices on the account. Reds are unregistered, meaning we can't send calls to them. Green means we can, right, registered. And then this black one here at the bottom, right, is I turned it off under the enable column. You can add devices up here at the top. The main thing to point out is, again, that when you add a soft phone, you don't have the option here to toggle it to make it a VirtualPBX soft phone. You have to do that directly on the user. Now, the little wrench icon here under Edit for these devices, for audio, for a physical device, so like this Yealink phone, you want to make sure under selected, you've got G711U and G711A. For your VirtualPBX soft phones, by default, you'll have Opus, and that's fine. You don't need anything else. The emergency caller ID, right? That's where you can set up a specific phone number for this device for 911 purposes only. You can also set up the external caller ID so that way the outbound caller ID is to a specific device or specific phone number for that device as well. Greetings tab shows all your media files on the account. Right? You've got the name of the file. Source, TTS, is text-to-speech. Upload means you uploaded the file, and recording means it was recorded over the phone. The little play column here, you can play back the greeting directly in your browser to see if it's still relevant or not. Here's your option to download it. So for like your main greeting that you typically use for the majority of the year, I would say download a copy so you have it. So you can always add it back if you need to. The little edit, the wrench icon here under edit allows you to change the name of a file, right? So you can name it to something you can recognize, as well as you can get rid of a file that you know you don't need any longer. Right? Because it's easy to have this get very big on you, and then you don't know when is what, takes a while. Numbers tab starts you off on numbers in use. This just shows you where your numbers are assigned. You've got the gear icon here to update that aspect of the numbers. You can't unassign numbers here or assign numbers here. It's just showing you their location. The spare numbers tab shows you the numbers that you're not using. If you want to get rid of some of your numbers, you click on the box in front of the number. right? And then up here, now you have the option to delete. You confirm the deletion, and now I have less phone numbers on my account. Right, by numbers, local toll free, so you can add more spare numbers that you're going to use later. Port starts the port process. You just give it a name. You choose local or toll free. And then the system wants you to upload a PDF copy of your most recent bill. There's a form to fill out after that. It's basically wanting your company information that your current carrier has on file for you, right? So whatever the company name is, the address, etc., you're going to want that there. It asks for a BTN, or billing telephone number. If you're only porting one number, the number you're porting, that's your BTN, right? If you're porting multiple, you're going to want to double check with your carrier to find out what that is. There's also a field for a PIN number. We typically see that uh, in terms of porting in or to port out a number, some carriers require a PIN number. Now, predominantly, that's cell phone carriers as a security feature, right? Because when you port out a number from a cell phone, right, the cell phone itself will stop working as a phone because it no longer has a number associated with it. It then becomes a number on your account. Some carriers, they have it like right on your invoice for the PIN number. Others, you have to call them and get that information from them. Right, voicemail boxes shows your voicemail boxes on the account. Right, anything that it's got information here under the user column, those are the user voicemail boxes that you created with the user. Up here at the top, you can add a new voicemail box. Right, you just need to give it a name, give it a voicemail box number and a PIN number, and then click on create voicemail box. Now, one thing to keep in mind, the voicemail box number is not an extension number. So someone coming in, dialing into my main number and enters 3333, right? They're not going to get to this voicemail. They'll probably be told invalid option, right? Because I don't think I have any extensions with that same number. But the voicemail box number and PIN number, that's what you would use to check voicemails over the phone, as well as get into the personal settings of that voicemail box over the phone so you can update the greeting. Under advanced, we have greeting media. So here you can upload media files directly to the voicemail box, right? So they're standard voicemail greetings. The temporary is the out of office or vacation message. So if you have something selected in temporary and in media at the same time, the temporary file plays, not both. Right? The media file won't come back into play until you set temporary back to none. But if you're going to upload a file, right, .wav, .mp3 up to 1 megabyte. Recipients. So your user voicemail boxes already have one built-in recipient, right, that email address used for login. But any voicemail box you create here, you want to click on add new recipient and then enter an email address, right? You can keep clicking add to add more if you want to. And then once you're done, you would click on save changes. And then under options. So once you have a media file in place and recipients, you can click on the box here for already set up, right? So that way you don't have to worry about updating it any further. And then you'd want to check, are you attaching voicemails to messages? And if you want to delete messages or not, right? This is my support voicemail box. I probably don't want it to ever become full because that would, cause concern for my customers. Text forward. Again, you would have to add or enable this via the add-ons. Up here at the top, you would add number, right? Choose a number on your account and then enter either an email address in this box here or a webhook. Now, a webhook, you'd have to have the webhook feature enabled on the account. Most people we encounter use an email, right? And then you would click on create virtual text forward. And you see here all these phone numbers. If someone sends a text message to them, these people get an email saying, hey, you have a text, here's the body of that information. Call logs shows your call history on the account. You see here I have 2 calls that came in today. The green arrow to the right, that's a call that came into the system. When you click on a call, when you see multiple legs like this, right? So this first leg is a call coming into the system, right? And then the second leg is a call going from the system out to the device. So I can see here the call went to this phone number and that the call ended normally. Whereas on this one, it only came into the system, right? It didn't actually reach a device. So basically it went to voicemail. You can also go by this week, right? This month. And then custom allows you to set your date range. So I can go from October 1st to the 31st. The little yellow arrow to the left here, that's a call going out from the system, right? So someone making an outbound call. Now the system will let you go back up to 12 months. After that, you would have to contact our support team. We'd have to get an escalation up to our engineers who can go back up to 18 months. But after that, the information is no longer available. If you need your call log details for any kind of compliance reasons, I do recommend you do this every month. Just basically download them because you have the option here to download these at any time. It downloads it as a CSV file. So again, if you're good with spreadsheets, you can get some information out of it. Little fire extinguisher icon here, this reports a specific call. It will create an email for you, already pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It's going to have the technical information about the call, but you're definitely going to want to include context, right? i.e. type in, like, I didn't hear audio, or my call ended abruptly, or something like that. And then we have feature codes. Feature codes are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. These are also noted on our support page, so you don't have to log in to view these. Also on the support pages, you can do a search for the phone command cheat sheet, which is basically a single page PDF that has the context help set out there as well. All right, so that's all of the dashboard. Next up, we have blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your staff. All right, so you would click Edit Blacklists, and then you would click Add if you're creating a new one. Otherwise, you would click on an existing, give it a name, and then choose, are you blocking anonymous calls or not, right? An anonymous call basically means call comes in and it's not presenting proper caller ID. If you turn this on, that means they reach the system, right? It would show up in your call log, but then they get busy tone, right? They're not going to be able to navigate through your phone system. If I leave this off, that means they get through, so they can then get to your staff. But beyond that, you come down here where it says the list of existing numbers. Click Add Number, +1 area coded number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Keep clicking Add until you're done. Click Save. And up here at the top right, click on Back to Settings. Make sure your lists are over here on the right under Selected. And so you might have to click and drag them over. And then click Update. Even if they're already here on the right, click Update. All right, call recording. If you're using our the non-AWS call recording, right? This will open up a new tab, takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com, which has a Dash login, right? Uses your Dash login information, and you can view recordings there. If you have AWS set up, then it's going to look like this, right? So it's going to take, basically, this is mirroring what's on your AWS account. So you can play back the calls and download them, etc. Monitor a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff, right, or their devices. Right, you also have the option of seeing who's available, and who's busy. Over here on the right, any new inbound active call would show up here, and each would have their box showing who they're speaking to among your staff. If anyone parked a call, they would show up here, right? So you see their phone number and then the parking spot number. Reports. This opens up a new tab, takes you to reports.virtualpbx.com. If you look in the show notes, there's an advanced reporting demo link there that will show you what you can do. But basically, this allows you to create your own reports, right? It's a more advanced feature of the call logs. If you're interested in having this as a feature, you want to talk to our account services team, right? Account services at virtualpbx.com. Once the feature is enabled all the way through, then the data will start populating from that point forward. and anything before that time won't show up in the reports. All right, voicemails is an included feature. Basically, it's your voicemail manager. You can get to any voicemail box on the account. So you can see if, like you have a full voicemail box, you can get there. They'll put a check mark so you can change the status of a voicemail, or you can move it to a different voicemail box if it's in the wrong spot. Here's your, over here on the far right is your option to play it back or download the file as well. Integration AWS, this is a plan specific feature, right? It would need to be enabled for it to show up on your account, but this is how you would link your Dash account to your AWS account, right? You would need these middle three pieces of information here in order to set it up, and those you get from AWS. All right, call center, this will open a new tab, take you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com, which uses your Dash login to get logged in. And that's how you access the call queues. If you go in the show notes, you're going to want to look at the ACD Queues Pro demo, and that will show you what the queues are about. The queues are an advanced version of groups, right? So if a staff member is on a call in the group in the queue, and another call comes into that queue, it doesn't try to offer it to that busy person. It just goes to the next available person. You have more advanced routing options like round robin or who's most idle, things of that nature. The queues also allow a manager in the queue to eavesdrop in on a call, right? So they can listen in, or they can whisper to their staff member to help them, or even barge in if things are getting out of control. Dynamic caller ID is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID of your VoIP phones. I'm going to click edit here on this first one. So this one, right, I named it Las Vegas or Vegas. I chose a 702 number on the account, and basically I'm just saying whenever my staff members dial a 702 area code phone number, to change the outbound caller ID to the 702 number I selected. Conversely, this one here, right, I called it LA, although it's not exactly accurate. I selected a 916 number, and now whenever my staff members dial star 951, right, they enter the area code and phone number they're calling to, the system will recognize that feature code and say, oh, I'm going to change the outbound caller ID to this 916 number instead of the default or the user feature. All right, fax manager, right? Included feature. This lets you get to any fax box on the account. So here I can see my inbound faxes, date, times, phone numbers involved. I can download the file. If I go to the outbound fax tab, right, I select my fax box. So here I see faxes that went out from my system. When I see a failure here, that means the system had a problem communicating with the other device or the other phone number. Right? I mouse over, it's telling me that what was it? Timed out waiting for initial communication. So that tells me that the phone number is a legit phone number, except when we connected, we didn't hear fax tones. Right? So it was probably a wrong number. Email to fax logs. If you see information here, this is where the system had a problem processing the request. Right? It shows you the email addresses involved to make sure they're the proper ones. But if you click the little eyeball icon here, you see in this case, it was a no valid attachment. So it wasn't a PDF or TIFF file that was attached. Maybe they forgot. Maybe it was a JPEG instead or something. Number Manager, this takes you to your spare numbers page. I'm going to scroll down here to webhooks. This is a plan-specific feature. If you click on New Webhook, this is programming, right? So you're linking your Dash account to other software. You can take a look at the website developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we have done. Also in the show notes, you can see the Introduction to Zapier webinar, which also covers some webhooks. If you're interested in this, you'd actually want to talk to our sales team so they have more information about it. SMS registration. If you want to make use of texting, right? You didn't see it on these users here, but the virtual text feature has to be enabled on your account, which means you need to talk to our account services team first. And once that's there, or once you talk to them, they'll talk to you about SMS registration, right? They need to know your use case. They need to talk to you about this. And then you would start the registration process with the register button down here. And then you would see the status. And then once you've gone through that, the virtual text feature will show up as a feature under each user, which you can enable. And then you would assign a phone number to them. And then lastly, we have the user portal. So by default, it starts you off on your voicemail tab. You can see your voicemails here. On the far right, you can play them back. You can download them. Right, you got a little box here so I can change the status. The call history tab, I can see my personal call history. I can change the date range, go further back, and see what my call history is like. Fax tab only works if I have my own fax box, but I can see my fax history. The contact list tab shows everything in your Dash account, right? So this would be used like I need to transfer a call to somebody. It will also show me the feature codes as well. Conference tab, that's usable for users that have conferencing enabled. Over here on the far right is where you could update the user can update their moderator or participant PIN numbers. These should be different, right? Just for security purposes. And then the user has the option to have people join muted or deafened, as well as play entry and exit tones. While in a conference, if you come to your user portal here, the plus icon, right? You can invite other Dash users to your conference. You can lock the conference. You can mute everybody, unmute everybody, or end the conference call. Also, under the moderator and participant sections here, each moderator or participant will have their own little box. So you could mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person. And then the settings and devices tab, right here is where your staff members can enable call forwarding on their own. Just put a check mark here, right? +1 area code and phone number, and then save. So now I'm forwarding calls, right? And then when I'm done, I uncheck and click save, and now calls are routing normally. And that is everything. So I'll go back to the dashboard here, and I don't see any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.